and I thus have blown the first 8 or 10 seconds that most people use to capture people's attention and keep them on the video for the rest of the hour, and or the next 10 minutes or the next 2 minutes or whatever it is. So knowing me, if you've watched the show a few times, you know I'm not very conventional. So, you know, the people who are watching, I've lost their attention forever. They're probably never to return. And here's what I have to say about that. I don't care. I don't care, and I'll tell you why. Because the Hangout, I keep hesitating because I want to call it a show, and it's just for the ease of presentation. But I'm not conducting a show. I'm escorting a group of people through a conversation, and it ends up being of value, but I am not producing a show in the traditional sense. So it's hard for me to, I always stumble across the terminology. But you're wondering, why is it that I don't care? Well, I'm not having a popularity contest. I'm not hurting likes and pluses, and that's just not where I'm at. But I am connecting with people for the purposes of knowledgeable and inquisitive interaction with people who value the engagement, and that's what we're doing here. So, you know, Jeopardy aside, I like the song. If we lost you, that's okay with me. And you know, please don't go away mad. Just go away. If you click away or you do whatever, I'm okay with that. But in the meantime, good morning, Marketing Smarties on a Saturday morning, and I'm glad you're with us. And we named that show because I started out thinking 5 months ago, I've got a small cluster of Southern Californians who in Orange County and surrounding areas could come together and meet and make use of this wonderful thing called Hangouts. And lo and behold, I met Karen Chin and a few other people, and suddenly I was more global than I was local. And so I had to kind of change my thinking a bit and realize that my message was a bit more universal and that there are more people who need to hear the type of things that we talk about than just Orange County. So whether you're a small business or a large business, a lot of the messages that we have do apply to everyone, and in most cases, most of the stuff is very, very valuable. So what we do is we filter through the BS and present you with something that matters. So we know that we are definitely global at the moment and have people coming in from various places. I would like to invite those of you who are listening from wherever you are to check in, give me your name, and tell us where you are coming from. And I would really appreciate that, okay? So in the meantime, I'll tell you who we are, or we'll present you with the people speaking from the green room today. And first I would like to introduce Molly Youngblood Geiger. I've just been calling her the Google lady because it's too hard to describe what she does. She's got a community called Marketing Online, Leveraging YouTube. And in case you haven't figured that out, the first letter of each of those words in the title are her name, okay? I don't know if they ever got that or not. I mean, I mentioned it once in a while. So Marketing Online, Leveraging YouTube. Molly, wow, how enlightening can that possibly be? So her company is Design Right for You, and hails from Jacksonville, Florida. Molly, say hi, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Roland, for that introduction. Yes, I've really Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties show. I not only love sharing information about Google that I know, but I love learning from you guys as well. Just a little background about myself. I'm very active on Google+. I am currently...
Whoops. I think we had a freeze go on, and let me see if she doesn't come back for a second. We'll come back to Molly.
In addition to that, I'm a Google Rising Star and just a very big fan of all the Google products that small business owners can use to get online.
Thank you, Molly. We lost about 5 to 10 seconds of what you were saying there. But if anyone wants to find Molly, definitely Google Molly Youngblood Geiger. She's got to be the only person on earth with that name. And in case you can't spell it, contact me. I'm almost as hard to find as she is. But one of us will be able to find the other. We'll tell you how to get in touch. Okay. By the way, we're going to be moving on to Terry Lee Britton, whose profile does not begin to describe the extremes of what he does or his knowledge base or his skills.
Extremes, that's good.
Yeah. Well, we won't elaborate necessarily, but we'll leave it at that. But anyway, I know Terry, you bring a lot of levity to the scene, but a lot more than that. It's not just levity. So you've got arts and smarts, and you bring that to the Smarty lineup from Elizabeth City, North Carolina. Say hi, Terry.
Yeah, good. Glad you're all listening to this. We're going to have a pretty interesting discussion today, I think.
And there you go. And Mr. Silent Treatment is going to let us go with just a few words of encouragement to stay tuned. And that's good. But just to let you know, Terry has a lot of background in design, and he's got a knowledge base that is very widespread. So the general overview of what he brings to the table is dynamic, and it's really pretty vast. And plus, while we're on the subject, in case you guys want to have some fun on a Friday night, he's part of a show called Plus Words, and it is one hell of a show, and we have a lot of fun, and I watched it for the first time last night. So Google Plus Words, and Terry, maybe you can give them a better connection to get to the show directly before the end of the show. We'll make sure that it's in the notifications. So, okay, thank you, Terry. Moving on, we have Karen V. Chin. And Karen is a San Francisco marketer and a social media engagement specialist. And she is well known for shifting engagement into hyperdrive, and that's basically why I have her here. Say hi, Karen.
Hey, Roland. Every time you do this every week, I'm flattered by just the introductions, and I am looking so forward to talking about today because, as you know, engagement and circling are two of my favorite topics, and I just love to talk about for hours because I just have so much, I guess, information and experience from it in the last 6 months that I've been here on Google Plus that I could talk for hours on this topic. So looking forward to it.
Okay, absolutely, and that was an honest evaluation of herself there. She can talk for hours, and it's worth listening to her. But you want to be careful when you get Karen started. I'll tell you that, okay? And because she's a fountain of information, and it comes naturally. It's just part of her language. So when you get her started, the next subject flows, and it's all connected. So just giving you the high five warning in advance. Watch what you say to Karen. If you mention social media, the game on, okay? And that's why she's here in the panel. Something that was said to me, and I think it was mentioned, from several people recently, but I think someone who's actually watching right now, Tim Longwell, said it to me, I think just yesterday, and that was mimicking the concept. You can tell me if I'm right or wrong, Tim, but he said to me, just because you can doesn't necessarily mean you should. And that statement pretty much pertains to what we're going to be talking about today. A little bit of finesse, a little bit of protocol, a little bit of common sense, and some basic rules of thumb. So when it comes to social media, we can meet people, we can build meaningful relationships and business relationships and friendships, but there is indeed a protocol, something that we should think about before we engage or as we are engaging in order to monitor that, the people who we are coming in contact with, and somewhat measure the effort that we should devote to the contact themselves. Because some of the people, not to be, it's not a negativity thing. I'm not saying choose your friends and kick everybody out the door. But as you're meeting people online, it's critical that you understand what kind of a contact you're making and what it is worth. And I'm suggesting that the first thing that you should do is make sure that if you do make an engagement effort with someone, you can at least be friends. And if you can't start there, very little else that you build from that is going to be worth it. So as we're moving forward, I'm going to hand this back to Karen because she has an idea that we were talking the other day, and I think that she's got a really nice lineup of some 6 points of protocol that she can hand you. So I'm going to turn it over to Karen.
Thanks, Roland. So as we were talking, and it actually added to the dialogue besides the 6 points. Terry and I were actually talking in the green room just literally 10 minutes ago about circling, and I think personally for me, circling is something that it's an interesting topic. It's a hot topic because everyone individually has their own way of circling and what makes sense. And I think for us, it may make sense for me, it makes sense for me, but may not make sense for you. But I think if you listened to especially what Terry has to say as we were going through it, we can learn from and actually put up on the comment thread to see what your tips are for circling. So Terry, as we were talking about circling, how do you feel about, someone circling you first? Do you circle immediately? I mean, what do you do? I personally go look at the person's profile, and I look at through a fine-tooth comb, and I especially look at the hover card. Hover card to me is within the first 5 seconds if I'm even interested to even take it to the next level and going into someone's profile.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, for starters, I do have definite rules about who I circle back, and I do not circle back everybody. For starters, rule number one: if it's a blue head, they haven't even uploaded a profile picture, it's definite no, I'm not circling it back. I go and look at the profile. If there's only 3 posts there and they're completely irrelevant to anything I have any interest in, then no, I don't circle back. I mean, I'm flattered that they're following me and find my content interesting and hope it benefits them, because that's why I post content. But if it doesn't look like they're actually doing that in their stream and are posting as if it was Facebook, for instance, there's just a bunch of personal stuff or nothing but shares of other website stuff, and not without even commenting themselves or adding any value to those shares. I mean, that's not always bad, but it just kind of is an indicator to me, because I have to make a judgment, because I don't want to have too many people in my stream. That's another issue, is that I've got this stream, this timeline thing that's streaming in whatever anybody I follow posts, and that can get a little bit too impossible to actually build relationships and comment on these posts where I'm keeping tabs on enough people that I really care about. You know what I mean? If I just suddenly flooding it with all these people. And as we also are going to discuss, nobody can contact you in a video call or chat unless you have followed them back. And so that becomes an issue in keeping some control over how many people can possibly not have seen what we're going to talk about later and just intrude upon your space without any concept of there being any etiquette or protocols that or their ideas are just different. Plus, there is the issue that if you just go following everybody back, there's a lot of people that are out there that are definitely predatory, and are looking to either, you have prostitutes, you have people wanting to do other pornographic types of things like video chat and stuff like that. Very common. The people chasing after different demographics for that type of thing, men and women. And
and you know this.
To be careful.
What experience, Terry? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I've had that experience on Skype constantly because it doesn't matter whether I follow them back. They can send me an invite to add them to my contacts, which doesn't happen in the same way with Google+. They have to follow me. They'd have to make comments in my posts. They'd have to get to know me a little bit and let me get to know them a little bit. And so there's more kind of barriers to entry, you might say, with Google+ than there are with Skype.
Yeah, I can talk actually about this too, Terry. For me, I don't circle back immediately also unless I know the person or some reference point, and then I would circle immediately. But I usually kind of let it kind of wait it out in terms of what that person is actually looking at my profile for, and if they're actually plus one or commenting or sharing any of my stuff first. If I don't see any of that activity, that person, I don't know what their intent is, but it seems like there's not a fit. And as you mentioned, blue heads I don't do. I don't do also if there's I just don't do blue heads because I mean there are some actually a couple blue heads that I think it's a cultural thing that they just don't understand not putting a picture up, and I actually have gone up to someone who actually have updated, and Roland, I think you know who that individual is, and they didn't even know actually how to actually upload the photo. So it's not necessarily a blue head where the individual may be clueless and not knowing how to use the the Google Plus technology. So I kind of give them slack for that. But there are some where that it's a fake identity, and I mean the military guys that can't spell, that are single men with one child. You kind of look at it and go, if you got that many medals and you can't like spell, there's something not right about that. So I kind of look into those issues. I also look at folks that when you look at the profile and there's a picture of a woman, but yet he calls himself a male. That's another one you just don't want to circle or have anywhere to go near. So that's not a form of person I really want to engage with, or having me actually go into discussion of having them follow what I'm doing. And that's where I actually block. I know people have some issues about blocking, that they don't want to block, but I am a big blocker because I get a lot of weird stuff, and I don't know if it's because I'm a woman. It might be that, but I also hear from the perspective of men. Men get it too. So it's not just a general only women get this. I think everyone gets it, and you just have to be very careful because, as you said, Terry, the predators are out there, and you really have to be careful, especially with your privacy and information. So, I think Molly, you actually had something you wanted to add.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. I know whenever I circle people or people circle me first, one of the very first things I do is I go look at their profile. I look at their post. To see what type of content they're posting, to see if it's something that is interesting to me or something that maybe I could shed some insights on. Going back into that, I also am a very big fan of just the quality of the person that I'm including in a circle. And I would even add to that circle management is very important, because with circles, you can actually only have up to 5,000 people in every circle. And there is actually an algorithm written where if you circle a certain, I think it's up to 1,000 people, like very, very quickly, you actually get a warning from Google saying that you're circling too many people too fast. And so one thing I think is very important about circling people is circle management, meaning going in and actually creating separate circles. Say you have an online community. Well, you may decide to create a separate circle just for that online community, versus say maybe you have a circle for clients. So I think that's something important to just throw out there, is in addition to making sure the quality of people that you're circling, is making sure that you're managing those circles as well.
Great. I can actually add to that in terms of circling. There's things that I send out personally, and then there's things that are professionally. And I think keeping the circles too, if we want to get to that point with engagement, I like dogs and flowers, and and I actually circle and have individuals where I kind of send that message out too. But others may not be interested in dogs and flowers. So when you kind of think about your circles, you also have to kind of keep in mind where the circles themselves have to be something where the person who's receiving that information, that post, will actually like it, because you'll get uncircled if you're sending things out that the person out there who's receiving it has no interest to. And so that's kind of why I also wanted to bring that up. Roland, do you have any ideas or what your feelings are in terms of circling?
Well, I agree with all of what you've been saying, but I'm extremely careful about who I circle. And I would say that there are probably, it might even be 50-50 from the circlings that I get, whether I circle back. because it's like when I was a DJ doing gigs. I used to tell people I'm as critical about who I work for as they should be in hiring me. And it's a relationship that goes on, and you have to be the right match. Well, on a minor level, it's the same thing in Google Plus or any other social media. It's like relationships that could grow into something. And most of the people in Google Plus are thinking more of the percentage of the time serious contacts, serious engagement, possibly business contacts, and so the relationships compared to and I don't always like to trash Facebook, but the relationships on Facebook don't measure up to what it's on Google Plus. They just on a percentage basis, they don't measure up. So I'm doing business in Google Plus because of that, and it's just overwhelmingly better. But because of this, I have to be really much more critical about what I'm doing and the actions that I partake, that I involve myself and engage in social media because of this. And everything that I do and say, and it's got to mean something. It can't be a casual statement about what I'm having for lunch and blah, 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 and the movie last Saturday. I mean, I might do that too, but not as a general post and a daily 9 to 5, 3 times a day posting, gee, what I'm doing next today. That's not the kind of posting I'm involved in. But I am involved in serious contact with people, and it's keeping me very, very busy. So it's a full-time job, and it's not a little social thing that I do. It gets very social, but it's not the intention with which I am engaging.
Well, you just gave me the inspiration, though, to create a wants to know every little detail I'm doing circle, and that way I can always send those types of posts just to that circle and not to the public. Yeah,
okay.
That's a great idea.
Well, I think that's actually totally doable in Google Plus, and not as doable in Facebook because it's all like that. So enough of that. But I wanted to make the comment that the comment stream is not functioning properly. A lot of people are saying there's no comment box. We've been experiencing this for about 3 weeks, and I really do not know how to correct it.
You just have to keep reloading the event page for the comment box to finally come back.
Yeah, I don't know why that's the case, but if you keep reloading and then you have to re-engage with the live broadcast, I know that that is a hassle. I'm very sorry about the technical difficulties, but I do not believe it's anything that we have control over from the Hangout source. And so thank you for bearing with us. We do have a few people who are able to comment. We've had them already. So I know that the basics of the system work, and some of you might gain more of an ability to comment if you refresh your browser and re-engage with us. And then you might have to actually go back and watch the replay just to see what we're missing in the meantime. But I thank you. It's good. You know, it'll work either way. And the conversation is worth listening to, so I hope you do engage in the replay. By the way, we're going to come back to what we intended to do about 10 minutes ago, and I'm going to hand it back to Karen, and she's going to go through a few points of protocol. So if you're going to take notes, this is probably a good place. But remember that you can always come back and listen to the video. So Karen, why don't you take it away and lead us by the nose through a few of the protocol tips, please.
Okay, so as we were originally going to start, so we got sidetracked with circling. We wanted to talk about today video chatting and the proper way or the etiquette or the manners that seems to sometimes are lacking that I find that I wanted to kind of bring to people's attention today. So for me personally, I don't respond to video chats if I don't know the person. It's the thing that you get on the side where it pings and says that, hey, join this call. If I don't recognize any of the folks on that list, I don't pick up. And I know that some people do, but for me personally, I don't do that. I find that the people that I do, when I actually do look up the name, are people not because there's not a good fit, and I don't want to get myself into that situation. I mean, for the panel, have you experienced that where someone is pinging you for a chat and you have no idea who this person is?
I actually have experienced that as well. My personal rule of thumb is I don't answer the call just because I figure if they haven't taken the time to introduce themselves and establish some type of connection or relationship, I'm just not prepared to talk to them in person over a video chat. So that's just my standard rule of thumb. I have to have some type of introduction, friendship. Hey, I know this person, or some type of connection before I'm going to answer a video call.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's kind of like when you think about it, it's like a phone call, right? Or someone's contacting you, and it's like a cold call. Like if you don't know who the person is, I mean, I screen calls, so if I don't recognize the number, I don't even pick up because it's usually a sales call, and you get really turned off because I get a lot of those. Terry or Roland, what are your thoughts?
Well, I don't get that happening too often, but I've never picked up on one that doesn't have people I know really well, like from the user-to-user group or people I know really well. And I think you can wind up being invited if you followed one person that's going to be in that call back, even one of them, and I don't know if they have to be the one that initiates the call or not, but if you're added to the list and somebody you followed is on that in that call, then I guess you can get pinged if you're added to the list. And but if I don't know this whole room full of people, I'm sorry, this is not like a telephone call. You're practically in my living room when I'm doing this video chat. It's a lot closer. It's whole thing, and although it's valuable, it's a great way to get to know people. But I don't like any kind of force feed, especially if there hasn't been at least some invitational text or email or something first. A personal. It's so easy to do a private message to somebody. You just put in their thing and send them a message and tell them, hey, we're going to have this Hangout video call. Would you like to join in? We're talking about this and this and this. And that way I'll know what the context is too. So yeah, I turn them all down though. Otherwise.
Well, I agree totally, Terry, about that. And you asked, regarding calls. I don't even accept direct phone calls from people I know. I let it go to, I'm just admitting, full disclosure, people. Generally speaking, it's a hassle for me anyway, because as soon as I'm like this, I'm absolutely trashed from doing anything else that I could do as far as work. So I screen all calls, whether they're video calls or phone calls or whatever, and almost to the point of including chat. I mean, sometimes I'll be listed as green and available, but I don't necessarily feel obligated that I have to chat back to everybody that gets to me. And I do get back to them. I get back to everybody, but I don't necessarily feel like I'm on call to respond within 30 seconds or something like that. So, for me, the whole call issue is an issue that I need to really control my day. Otherwise, it would be way, way out of control, and people would determine for me what I'm going to get done for the day. So it's a management issue, and it must be treated with respect, but I'm very careful, and I keep it narrow, and it's one of the reasons that I don't circle 100 people a day or 50 people a day. I can't keep up with the quality contact for new people by doing that many circling, and then we don't have quality contacts. We got a bunch of Facebook people. Terry, did you have a statement? Go ahead, Karen.
I was just saying that that's a basic time management principle, is not to let other people's calls run your day, and to have a message machine and get messages so you can call everybody back when it's a good time for you, because otherwise, like you're saying, you're being led around by other people's whims. So that's not a good way to be in control of your time, and you only get 24 hours in a day. Trying to get stuff done to help people, then you better keep a handle on it.
I agree with that, and I would add to that notifications. I get a lot of notifications, and it's just gotten to the point where if I stopped every time to answer a notification or a phone call or instant message, I'm going to spend my whole day just answering them. So I think that's a very good point, Terry, time management of Google+.
Karen, you had something. pin.
I wanted to bring it to attention. Tim Longwell, he's basically agreeing with Terry on some kind of interaction as a prerequisite to accepting an HOA request. I think it's a mutual agreement with everyone here on the panel and in the audience, that you just don't accept a call, or you just don't. If you don't know the person, you just don't do it.
Well, he's a perfect example because I first had my my first HO with Tim yesterday, and we connected. We just kind of chatted back and forth a little bit, and then we suggested, hey, have you got some time later on this afternoon? And we selected a time, and we got together in a hangout and talked, and we spent an hour talking. And by golly, I really encourage people to get to know Tim too. He's quite an artist, but he, it was like very, very interesting. And I didn't have some kind of an agenda when I contacted him. I just had looked over his profile and I thought, well, this is a very interesting person, and he's an artist. And artists to me are more appealing because they are not strictly business people. And so I've got an aversion necessarily to business people as it is, because they're always trying to push something on me. But we did not have an agenda with Tim and I talking, and we got done after an hour, and it was like, well, we're having a good time, and we want to do this again. And so we made a point to say, yes, we will re-engage in another time and connect. So it was a perfect example of what we're talking about here. We took it slowly, got to know each other a little bit in the chat, and then determined when to have a Hangout video call, and then had a really good time with it. So that's enough of that. Well, maybe we can get back to the.
Yeah, you're jumping ahead here. So the next one, as we were talking, we've talked about don't pick up the call. The second one we wanted to kind of share thoughts on were, and as you just eloquently said, Roland, was never sell or promote yourself during the first call. I think for me personally, when I do get a hangout and I don't know the individual, and I have had some experience where that's the first thing they want to talk about is business, and then they start promoting themselves, you get kind of turned off because you feel that the reason why they spent the time trying to get to know you is they're trying to sell you something. And it's not something where you're up for. You just want to kind of, you're toe dipping. You just want to understand and relate to the individual. And I find that for me, my personal experience is that it's something that you can bring up to the conversation toward the end of the chat, but not necessarily the very first thing.
Well, I will elaborate even further for that, because as I said, when I contacted Tim, I had no agenda, so there was not going to be a pitch coming. And the way I theorize this, and this is the way I run my business, is if somebody gets to know me and likes me and trusts me, then eventually they're going to want to ask me whether the services that I do provide, other than knowing, liking, and trusting me, are something that they could be concerned with, and maybe I can help them. But otherwise, that should never become a part of the conversation. So as far as incentive to call somebody, I have absolutely zero intention of trying to sell them a package or lead the conversation or have the intent of eventually coming around to my pitch. It's just non-existent in my philosophy, and that's how I do it. Now, other people are going to be different, and they're going to go into a conversation, no matter at what level it is, thinking, now when can I drop my card, or when can I drop a hint, when can I make that connection? And if you do that, then you've already tainted part of the relationship that was possible before you ever got started.
Yeah, I mean, I personally actually, when the initial call, because of the interaction that we've had socially on Google Plus, for example, when it comes to that time where we actually do that first initial video chat, I always put in a preface it in the invite, social chat. This is not a sales call, and I'm really upfront with that, just to let the person know that this is what this call is about, just to get to know them, because if we've had this much time interacting with our post, commenting back and forth, sharing each other's, posts, it's something that you want to take further and actually spend the time. This is kind of how I use the video chat at least for the first initial call. And then that's again going back to toward the end, like, so what do you actually do? And it's just part of natural conversation. You know, you just don't go out there and just slam somebody with like, this is what I do, this is what I want to do with you, you know, what your thoughts are. To me, that just seems a little too, I don't know, it's too much pressure, at least for me. Terry or Molly, what are your thoughts?
I will say that initially it's, you know, I'm not Terry or Molly, but I was going to say, regarding your statement, it's very manipulative of people to have this thing on the agenda list and to definitely dive into. By the way, I'm this and this and this, and just in case you ever have any needs there, I can help you. It's like the pushiest thing. And the philosophy in these Hangouts is when the pitching goes up, the engagement goes down. So if you want to end your engagement or put a definite damper or give the person a red flag, all you have to do is give them a digital pitch and try to hand them your business card or contact, and you basically ruined an opportunity way before it's even an opportunity. So go ahead, you guys.
Well, you know, this inspires an idea of what a glowing, bright future it would be if we did business by developing the relationships first and having a massive group of people we know, we like them and respect them, and then when we need something to be done, we put it out to our circles that, hey, I already know I like and respect you people, and this is what I need done. Do any of you actually do this? If so, you know, let me know. I'd like to talk to you. We'll get together and do a, you know, semi-social chat about my ideas and see if we got a fit going on.
That's how I do it.
I would actually add to that I personally think all of these tools are leading up to what I refer to as engagement marketing, meaning just put yourself out there, tell people who you are, what you do. Not necessarily I'm here to sell you a website today, but you know, if you have any questions about websites or search engine optimization or Google products or AdWords or you know, whatever you might have a question about, just in general, just try to lend assistance and build your reputation. And then once you've built your reputation, just like you suggested, Terry, you know, create a group of people where you can just put it out there. Hey, I know Molly, she, you know, closely affiliated with, you know, Google products. If you have a question about Drive, you can, you know, let her know or something like that. So I think that's a very good point you made.
Yeah, put it out how you can help first.
Exactly. Well, and that's actually been my experience in the Google Partners community. When I initially joined, it was just because I figured, you know, hey, this is Google. They're offering this community. Sounds like a good idea to me. And I got in there and just, like you said, I just started answering questions, trying to help people out, and just tried to be sincere. And it has resulted in, you know, my status with the community today. So I know I can attest, at least for myself, it works. Just get out there and help people.
Yeah, I think the idea of trust is key. You know, if you had that initial video chat for the first time, and if you try to sell something to someone and they were not ready for it, they're going to be like, oh, I don't know about this person. But if you build on a relationship and you're having conversation, and it's just all natural, this is not forced, you'll have the chemistry. If there's chemistry there, it's going to continue. If there is no chemistry, it's not going to continue, no matter what you do. But you know, people will remember, like, oh yeah, I know, yeah, Terry does this, or Roland, yeah, I think he builds websites. Yeah, you know, someone just asked me a question. I can refer Roland, you know, to this person. You know, would you be Roland? Hey, by the way, are you interested in this opportunity? Person may be living, you know, not necessarily in Orange County. Are you interested in doing work, you know, outside of the state, outside now, globally? Are you willing to do that? And that's kind of where the connections, you know, meet and lie. And that's where, again, the video chatting, and you make those introductions. And that's what's worth the time when you actually are doing these types of calls, because you get to see the person's body language, you get to see the person's eyes looking at the camera, hopefully. You're having, you know, more of an interaction with somebody versus on the phone. You know, Skype, I think, has the same measures, but it's a little bit different in a sense, because you're not necessarily connecting through Google Plus because of the interchange of the plus oneing and the sharing and the commenting of posts, you know, and getting to know people within a community. You don't get that experience with Skype. With Google Plus, you do, because, again, you can see whether or not you connect or not connect. it's to me that's what I feel that's a great thing about these Hangouts is because you're able to connect it all together with within the Google ecosystem.
Yeah, Skype doesn't exactly, even though you can create Skype groups, it doesn't have communities that you can join of like-minded folks that you get to know people and get to respect people by what they share and in the community and the ways that they help people, the way they obviously help people and stuff, or their comments, and being enlightening in some way or adding to the conversation.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just
Yeah.
totally.
Well, one of the things that hardly ever comes into play when we consider social media is the classroom effect of what the Hangouts represent and what sort of an educational process we have available to us. If we want to show people, show the world, show a community, whatever, what we know, we can have a Hangout and give it to them for free, advertising and promoting ourselves by not advertising and promoting, by educating. So it's a completely different attitude that we can approach the market and teach people about what we do by showing exactly how we do it, or how what we know and what we offer. And that way they're getting to know us and getting to know exactly our attitude towards helping people, and that's going to attract more customers than the best pitch in town. So
I agree with that. I agree with that, Roland. I'm actually in the process of doing a Hangout on Air for nonprofits, not necessarily to go over the Google Nonprofits program, but to actually just do an introductory, hey, this is what the Google Grants project is. If you are a nonprofit, just kind of go over some of the general guidelines and present to them their options. So I definitely agree that Google Hangouts on Air is a great platform to teach subjects that you may know about.
Great, Wally, thank you.
Yeah.
So how far off our 6 points are we?
Let's just keep going here. So we got three more to go. I think we've also touched this one is basically being respectful for the person's time. So if you scheduled a Hangout and if it's for 30 minutes, just keep it at 30 minutes. Don't go over, or if you do go over, ask the individual. So just be respectful of the person's time, because again, doing a Hangout or having chats could take up a lot of time, and you may not necessarily, that is your intent with that individual, because the relationship is relatively new still. So, I mean, I feel that if it's 30 minutes, just keep it at 30 minutes, and if there is something, as Roland, you mentioned with Tim's conversation, you can actually have another conversation at another time.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Tim and I could have probably gone on for another hour, but the bottom line is Tim and I are very, very recent compadres online, and so before assuming that he's got all afternoon to visit or all evening to visit, it's better that I take a step back and say, hey, listen, I know that you're probably busy too, and I've got a few things to do, and actually, if nothing else, create a way to exit gracefully and timely, and then set another time or set the intention to re-engage and come back. And we both confirmed that we wanted to do that, that the conversation was valuable. So that was a perfect interaction.
The next one is basically looking at the camera in the blue light, just making sure that you're not looking down like this or you're looking up like this. But I know, Roland, you have your issues, but it helps with, again, connecting with someone is making sure that you stay steady and looking at the camera at all times. So again, you're feeling a conversation. It's not necessarily the most natural thing, and it does take practice to do. But once you start doing it, there you go, Roland. Once you start doing it, you learned that it makes it a better, at least for the person receiving end, that they feel like you're talking to them.
Right.
And you're not also distracted. If you're typing and doing something else while you're talking to somebody for the first time, I also find that extremely rude. What are your guys' thoughts on that? Had that experience where you've talked to someone for the first time and they're like doing something else, and you just feel like you're like, I'm bothering you, I should just get off this call?
That's kind of meeting somebody for lunch and having them reside the entire time on their texting on their phone, their smartphone or something like that. It's like you don't have their attention. It's really all about quality engagement, and it cannot happen if they're texting on their phone. Same thing in Hangouts.
I agree with that. I think when you're on a hangout, just treat it like it's almost you're meeting the person in real life. Look into the camera just like you would look into somebody's eyes. Try to be respectful. Don't type or text or get on a phone call or eat a sandwich or whatever things that might be distracting. I think it's just a general rule of thumb. If you whatever you would practice in real life, practice on Hangouts on Air.
So Barbara, quick, the next time your dog starts barking, I would appreciate it if you would escort your dog out of the room so that we can have our conversation. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Barbara is a really, really, really cute dog, and I'm just really kidding. So,
okay. So number 5 is basically try not to use any profanity or language that's not professional, derogatory, all the things you don't really want to say in real life, just don't do it on camera because, again, it's a reflection. I find that, too. Not that I get shocked by it, but I do get shocked by it because I don't really know you, but yet you're doing this in front of me, and you kind of judge by, the vocabulary someone's using. So, again, that's my own personal take. Once I get to know you and you start using it, it's part of your character or your quirk, I can accept that. But for the first time, if there's just a bunch of things coming out of you, I'm like, I don't know if I can actually continue this conversation. And this has actually happened to me, so I just wanted to throw that out.
Well, it's kind of like that. It's better to let people think that you're an idiot than to open your mouth and remove all doubt or something like that.
Well, I have been accused of seeming Tourette's syndrome with dag nabbits and oh hecks, but that's about as extreme as I get.
I think as a general rule of thumb, it's just like, just like in real life, if you're going to conduct business, you want to have a polished image. And so any techniques that you can do to keep that image polished, I would apply to Hangouts on Air as well.
Really good point, Molly. I appreciate that greatly.
I mean, when you think about it, you're not necessarily, again, as a phone call, right? You don't necessarily start using profanity on a phone call with somebody for the first time. Or you're at a business meeting, you don't start doing that. So I think, again, maybe it's because of the casualness, because we're seeing each other and you I don't know, maybe the shoulders are let loose a little bit and you're much more relaxed and things just come up naturally. But again, I think as Molly was saying, is just keep the professionalism as much as possible. Once you build a relationship, if you decide to go that route, then the person is receptacle. They understand. And then the last one is basically when you do start your initial chats, try to have it, as I call it, during business hours, meaning if you don't know the person, it doesn't make sense necessarily to have your first initial chat at 10 o'clock at night because it just doesn't make sense, at least for me. Try to stay within the confines of business hours. It could be different also if you're global and you're working with someone or trying to meet up with someone who lives in the UK, for example. Like I think Missy J is out there listening, and she lives out in the UK. And our first initial calls, I think, I was calling, I think, in the afternoon, but her afternoon, I think, was her evening. So, but we agreed to that. I think, again, we're just respecting the individual and during their time of when it actually makes sense to meet. So that's kind of what my thoughts are about having those initial chats. But once actually you go through that and get comfortable with each other, again, that rule doesn't necessarily apply. You can, set your chats anytime you want to set your chats at. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, for one thing, being a global neighborhood changes things a bit, because I know I was winding my night down in my bedroom next to my wife who was sleeping. I'm on my laptop looking at a Netflix show, and I get this ping, and I look up and it's like, it's Hong. It's Hong from the 28 Days community. But I mean, it's like early in the day over where she is, being in Malaysia. So I don't mind that at all. But the point is, she and I already have a relationship. So it's no problem to communicate like that. But most definitely during the day, I mean, basically at roughly a 9 to 5 or some surrounding time periods, avoid dinner. try to avoid breakfast, and make room for lunch just in case. But I mean, yeah, during business hours is a really good rule of thumb, and being respectful of who you're contacting and what their approximate 9 to 5 is relatively, and that would be a very, very good rule to start with. From there, you can always expand out and see what's comfortable for the people. Say, what's the best time to contact you? Or my best available hours are like this and this. And from there, you can expand out and fine-tune per relationship. I wanted to mention again that if anyone happened to come on late, I know we've had problems with the comments stream, and even though I'm looking at the event page and I see a place to make a comment, I know a lot of people could not today, and that's why it seems like Tim is the only one interacting with us and a couple people. But let's see what this is here. Let's see. Tim Longwell says, looking at the camera is providing eye contact the same as IRL, in other words, in real life.
Mm-hmm.
For a lot of people, that is very hard to do at first because not wanting to infer that they're staring or intruding. It's okay to be shy, and with practice, one can become more comfortable with it. And very true, and we all need to get more comfortable with it. Basically, it's like second nature to me now. If you don't mind me sitting here in a T-shirt, which is what I live in, it's all good to me. So I'm in my living room in a T-shirt, and this is how I do business, and this is how I talk to you. So I guess that's about as real as it gets, huh, Karen?
Yeah, it does actually. So basically, I think we went through the 6, I guess, video chat etiquette rules, and at least for me, this makes sense and it works for me. Again, just don't chat or just don't accept initial video chat requests if you don't know the individual. 2, never promote or sell yourself during the first call. 3, be respectful of a person's time. And 4, always look at the camera as much as possible. I know that's a really hard one to do. 5 is, again, watch your language and be as professional as possible. And then 6, as we mentioned again, try to chat within business hours. I know in the United States it's only 3 time zones, but once you start working globally, all things kind of change where one person has to make the sacrifice. And again, it's coming to agreement when you can actually make that conversation happen. And again, I would strongly recommend sending out an invite and asking for that time, and that goes a long way with an individual when you actually create an invite, because it shows how professional you are, and it also puts you on your calendar.
Right, and the person gets to think about it in advance, what they can add to it, because now they know what you're wanting to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, if you have an agenda, I mean, I didn't want to get into the details, but on a more professional side, if you have an agenda, what you want to cover, by sides of social, going back and forth, at least the person can be, as you say, be prepped for the call. And it makes a better call when you think about it. Again, it's like any video conferencing call or any conference call in general. You got to, the person wants to be prepared.
I would actually add to that, treat it just like a business meeting, meaning there's a reason why we plan in advance, and that's exactly it, Karen. You want to give that person a heads up. You want to give them time to prepare. You want to give them time to, if they have anything they want to present during the Hangout, any information, details. Maybe you're working on a project and they need to collect some details or information. So my advice would be to just treat it like a regular business meeting. The only difference is it's not in real life, it's online. I would add one other tip to looking into the camera. I know for myself that was a big challenge for me. I was very, very camera shy when I first started doing Hangouts. And one of the ways I actually overcame my shyness was to actually just do a Hangout by yourself, meaning just schedule a live Hangout on air. You can mark it as unlisted, meaning nobody else can watch it except you, and just look at yourself. And when I mean look at yourself, I mean, like, I'm looking into the camera right now, but then I look down and I look at my little film strip and I'm like, oh, I'm not looking into the camera, but, look into it, and then go back and watch it. Go back and watch the Hangout, and then look at yourself looking straight to the camera, and then you'll suddenly realize, oh, now this is why I need to look into the camera direct, because it makes me look like I'm talking to the individual. So that's just one of my tips that I would share.
Okay, I've got a tip to share. Thank you, Molly. But one of the things that I experienced recently is that people are unaware of video etiquette. So what happens, I'll be sitting in the middle of several different interactions, maybe 2 or 3 chats going on. I'm writing an email and I'm trying to make notes for tomorrow's whatever, and someone video calls me. It's like they expect me to stop what I'm doing and pick it up. And sometimes it's when I don't even know that they're going to try to get in touch with me. So if there's not a relative time slot and suddenly you're calling, it's really not the best way to make contact. The best way to make contact is to try the chat first, and that's a text message chat, and feel it out. Hi, are you available, or something like that, so that you're paying additional respect, and it's a very convenient thing. I mean, you can keep on doing what you're doing, and you can chat, and then if they get back to you, then you can say, okay, let's talk in 2 minutes, or let's talk in 5 minutes, or let's talk at 5:30, or whatever. And you organize it that way. So it's about management and respecting the other person's time, and it works a lot better. Because half the time, as I said early on, if you just call me, chances are I'm not going to answer. And maybe not everybody's like that, but I think it's a very respectful thing to do. And just be upfront and open. And it's such an easy thing to message someone before you video call. And I think that that's the best strategy.
I also think too is people may not necessarily be camera ready, and you may not necessarily, whatever you're wearing or whatever you look like, you may not want to be actually having a call. So I think definitely, I mean, that's what I always do too, is that if I'm trying to get somebody on and do a video chat and I didn't send up an invite and it's more of a casual situation, I definitely send out a message, hey, are you there? Do you got a minute? This is what I want to talk about, and find what the response back is from that individual. And the person responds like, yeah, I want to talk to you, or I can't talk to you, no worries, right? You basically find another time to talk. But again, you just don't ping somebody, even if you know them really well, you just don't ping them and start calling them, because I find that extremely nerving, because I could be doing 4 different things at the moment, and all of a sudden this thing goes off and says, call. And now I've got an iPad, an iPhone, I've got the computer, it's all syncing it doesn't sync at the same time, so the ringing goes off all over the house, which to me is very annoying. So that's also something to consider for. I mean, and as Molly was mentioning, practicing in front of the camera makes a huge difference. Because in general, I think like most people, we don't like looking at ourselves, and we don't like our voices, we don't like our appearance at times, and we're all very critical. But if you can practice and just do this and get over it, you'll feel that you'll get the courage, and as Tim was saying, not be as shy in front of the camera, and you just keep talking. And again, you can have it enlisted, you can also have it private, so that no one, even if you have the link, you only are the individual who can see it, and you can also delete it, so after you finish the call, so that you see what you look like.
Well, in my case, it's kind of like what you see is what you get, and as I said before, like, I don't care, I do business in my t-shirt, and that's the way I am, so I'm usually ready, but I'm not necessarily willing. And if my head is in something, people owe it to us when we owe it to others to make sure that we prep them in enough time to be ready for a quality interaction, or whatever casual interaction that you want to. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Terry. Well, it's about time to wrap it up, by the way.
Yeah, one of the reasons I did this show is because I want people to understand I have other reasons for not answering in case you did try that, and it's not always because I'm in my bathrobe, okay? That's not why I didn't answer. It's just other reasons I might not have answered. So that's why I was on this show, so you understand what those reasons might be. It's not always my bathroom. Okay, yeah. So,
is that why we never see you in your bathroom?
Not answering anything while wearing my bathroom. So that's no one's going to get a shot of me with my bathroom on, so just don't even try.
Okay, well, it's very possible that our flow through for the information has gotten a little bit clogged with the debris that we're handing them now. So I think that maybe we'll taper off our conversation and wrap it up. And in 30 seconds or less, Karen, is there anything that we would wrap up our 6 points of interest, or are we pretty much complete?
I think we basically wrapped this puppy, and it's in bed now. It's done.
Okay. And Molly, did you have a last couple of words?
Yeah, I would just say handle Hangout video presentations just like you would handle a real presentation or meeting in life.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
Terry, you had your bathrobe, and so that's
Yeah,
it.
well, that was just a joke. But I did post a link. When you're thinking of these circles also and the number of relationships that one can nurture, I posted a link to about the Dunbar effect in the comment stream, and it's a good article on Robin Dunbar's realization that you really can't have relationships with more than 150 people in a community at a time, which is one of the natural reasons why villages always used to be so small, and why even as the towns developed in in more cosmopolitan areas where you had cities develop, they still always broke into village areas of about 150 people in an enclave. And W.T. Gore, I think it's W.T. Gore company, the Gore-Tex people, they whenever they get more than 150 people in a building, they build another building because they've realized that that effect is so powerful that you really want to have relationships, build them 150 people at a time. And then when you have those really going and they're nurtured and maybe can run by themselves, then go ahead and start working on your next 150. But that's the advice that Robin Dunbar is giving.
I would really appreciate the fact that you brought that up, and we'll probably wrap it up pretty much with this. But that effect is so critical because, as you say, you can't build quality relationships with more than that at one time. So why are people trying to get thousands and thousands of followers? They are playing a numbers game, but they are not playing a relationship building quality engagement game. So you got to decide what you want to do. Me, you can have all the Facebook fans and likes that you want. I'll stick to a few select chosen few in Google Plus where we can make a difference. So I really appreciate everybody participating. And before we sign off completely, I know that there are people that are probably out there and disabled from commenting, and I apologize for that. I don't have an explanation for you, but I just wanted to say, just in case you're watching, thank you going out to Emil Youssef, Lynn Sanders, Craig H., Tatiana Youngblood, Glenn Jewett, Monica Schmidt, Missy J., Alvin Lamb, J.R. Ramsey, I always mess that up, J. Ramsey, Carol Richard, Jim Sharp, Chef Dennis Litley, Jennifer Steele, Charles Dunkley, Barbara Quick, Kristen Drysdale, Bill Graham, Molly, you're in with us, excuse me. Candy Javier Sakai, Ron Snaberger, David O'Rourke, John Quatal, I pronounced that right? And Hong Hong, glad to have you. Jeremy Murphy, Tim Longwell, John Jerkowitz, Robin Holland, and Vivek Bandor. So, thank you very much. If you were here, fine. If you weren't, fine. But I appreciate you RSVPing and having the intention to join us. And if you have the opportunity to watch the replay and comment on the things that are said, I will definitely get back to you and return comment, and we can carry on the discussion even though it wasn't live, because there was a mouthful of stuff handed today. So this is Roland from Saturday Morning Marketing Smarties, and I want to thank you for being here and wish you a great day.